Greetings, Multi-Retro Man here. Now, recently there's been some changes to the law regards driving. Now, I don't normally comment about anything like this, but I think this is quite useful, really, and especially with Samsung. Now, what happened was, the newer cars have they have the thing Android Auto. Now, I've never used it before because we once had a courtesy car, but it didn't work right. So I never bothered using that. But they did have a feature previously called, well, it was known as Car Mode. It was an app called Car Mode, and basically your screen it had like bigger icons, so you could use it, obviously touching the screen. Now, given the law that you can't use you're not allowed to touch the screen or hold the screen or anything anymore anyway, because it's distracting you driving, which I totally get. If you're in a busy area like that, you shouldn't be fiddling about with that, because like whoa, you can end up having an accident, and that's not nobody wants. Now, the issue was what used to be good with it was it would say if you received a text message from your friend or something, it would say you've received a new text message. Do you want me to read you the message? So you could say yes, and then it would use the voice to tell you what the message was. Great. And then once it had finished reading whatever it was, whether it be something useful or just a load of rubbish, because some people just send rubbish sometimes, don't they? What it would then say was, do you want to reply to the message? Now, you could say either yes or no. And if you said no, then it'd say, okay, and then it would go back to the main screen, and that was it. Job was good. If you said yes, it would say, what message would you like to send? And then you could use your voice to say what you actually want to send. So you could say something like, I will be at home in 3 minutes. I'm just round the corner. And then when you pause it, and then convert it into the text or whatever, and say, would you like to send this message? Or we'll be back, in the usual voice. And it would repeat back what you've said. And you say yes, and then say, okay, sending or whatever, and then the message will be sent, and vice versa. So you didn't have to take your hands off the screen. The hands off your steering wheel to, touching the screen, because you get into trouble. So I thought about it, and I think it would be quite a useful feature, if you're driving or something and somebody rings, because, I've got a smartwatch, but again, they could argue by saying that, if you're driving, you've got your hand like that and you take your hand off and you swipe the screen, they could argue that you're taking hand off the screen, or sorry, again, off the screen, hand off the steering wheel to touch your smartwatch, because, so you've got one hand that's steering like that, but you're trying to look at it. Again, that could be a distraction and you're not driving in full control of the car. Going forward, though, when I looked on the internet about it, finding out what had happened to Car Mode, because I couldn't find it, it seems that Samsung stopped it last year. If I'm on my own and somebody sends me a text message and it's quite important, then obviously what I will have to do in future is to pull over at the side of the road, turn the engine off, and look at the message. But now they're taking it off, what do we use? I haven't got a clue. No idea. Obviously, I've contacted Samsung about this and said, look, what alternatives are there? What can we use? Hopefully, Samsung will have a good answer for me with a solution to the issue. I can't really see it though, can you? Right, I've had a couple of replies from Samsung. I've been backward and forward with them, and the upshot is, well, there's two issues really. One of the issues was that I use Google Messages to actually use, or send like, when you send like photos of the children to my friend, like, when the birthdays, that type of thing, rather than, because you don't use Facebook. The Google Messages allows you to send, he sends like silly joking pictures and video, images, that type of thing. So what it does is, when you're using that one, it uses what they call the chat feature. He's got a Huawei phone, but it's an old one that's got Google on it anyway, so he uses that. And obviously I use my phone with that, which is fine. However, the suggestion that Samsung gave was, try using the Hey Google feature, which is what I did. So I thought, I'll try that. Oh, somebody just turned the light on. We thought we'll try the Hey Google feature. But unfortunately, that didn't work, because I did it a couple of times and it got this message. It was it was accepting the fact I was telling it to send it by an SMS message using, obviously the Google's own software. So Google software, using Hey Google, using Google's messages. And it said it didn't understand. I'm like, well, that don't make sense. So I got back to Samsung and said, look, this is what it's showing. So they said, it's probably because you're not using the Samsung messaging app. So I says, fair enough. So they said, what you need to try to do is the Bixby option by speaking with using Bixby. So a similar type of thing that you can use it to wake up the phone or whatever. So by saying the words, I think it's something like "Hey Bixby" or something, and then it'll come on and say, what do you want to do? So I thought, right, we'll give that a go then. So I tried that, said, "Hey Bixby," send a text message, and it didn't work because it was the default messaging app was Google. So Samsung said, okay, well, try changing the default one to Samsung. Yeah, that didn't work either. And the reason why I sort of the issue with the Samsung one is that you can't send images using the chat features if the person is not using a Samsung phone. So it's completely defeating the whole point of having chat features or sending stuff like that, you know. So it's slightly different in that, I suppose you're not going to send any picture messages while you're driving, just a normal text message. So in that respect, it works for voice. But ultimately, if you've got to use that to send just text messages, then that makes the Samsung messaging app redundant, because they said that it's got to be another Samsung user using Samsung messages as the default app in order to send it. Now, I'm sure that my wife's using that as a default app, which I do need to check, but that didn't work either, because as soon as I clicked on the image, like, because I went to Meadowhall today, and I thought, well, I'll just try doing a test message, sending the picture of when we're in one of the arcade machines that's got the little lights on and stuff. I thought, I'll just try sending that as a test message, and it said converting to MMS, multimedia message. And I'm like, well, what's the point of that? Because that's the reason why I used the Google one in the first place, to avoid having to send multimedia messages, which are going to be very costly anyway soon. Going to be about £1 to send a picture message, which is absolutely ludicrous. So hence me using that. So what I need to do is check in my wife's phone, make sure that's what she's using as a default app, and if it is, then I need to reply back to Samsung and say, look, I'm now using this is a default app. My wife's using it as a default app, because they said one of the options is to use the chat feature by clicking on the three dots in the app on the user. But that option wasn't available for my wife, so it's a bit of a mystery. But I'll get there. Now, latest update. Well, first of all, I've had a bit of a shave. Feels better. Yeah, the latest update is a very strange one. I can send my wife messages using the chat option when I'm using the Google messaging app, and she's using Samsung messaging app, which is very strange indeed. Plus, when I went onto her phone to look at the actual Samsung messages options, she has the option to enable chat features with me, but even if I used Samsung messages on mine, it doesn't enable it doesn't allow chat features using the Samsung messaging on mine. Now, I don't know if it's, I had a funny, weird sort of thought about this, and I wondered if it's because I've enabled chat features on Google Messages. So if I disable the chat feature on Google Messages, would that then enable the chat features on Samsung? Because like I said, on my wife's side, I enabled the Samsung chat feature. Yeah, that's right. And it enabled it, because obviously we're talking to me on that, but it then it sort of turned itself back off again. Now I can only surmise it's because I'm using the chat features in the Google Messages, and she's using the chat features on the Samsung Messages. But that still doesn't then, well, it doesn't answer the question why they'll work using the two different ones, but I can't get it to work using the Samsung one. The other feature as well, which is a bit of a problem, is that my phone won't show or use 4G plus, whereas my wife's does. And so we're coming in the same place. We both got the same phone, S10 Plus, and hers will sometimes show 4G plus on more time, 9 times out of 10. I know it's not a major thing, because obviously the speed increases are probably minimal anyway, but it's the point that it seems that my phone is not doing what it should be doing properly. And I also, as an update, I've had this from Samsung. So basically, they don't know. Anyhow, if I get any updates, I will update the description of this video and explain what if there's a solution, what the solution actually is, because at the moment I'm still refusing to use the Samsung messages because of this chat issue. You know, so like my wife might send me pictures of kids or whatever, you know, using the messaging app. And obviously it doesn't work properly using the Samsung one for me, so I'm not using that at the moment. If it does start, if I can get it to work and I can get it using the Bixby feature, the function, then I will do it. But if not, I'm going to stick as it is. Yep, that's my Saboteur poster that I kindly got from Clive Townsend because of my smartwatch facer that I did. Now, hope you like this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, and click the bell notification to receive any updates for any new videos that I do. So thanks ever so much. Take care. Bye bye. Bob, 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 bob. Hello. Bob, 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 bob.